Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today we meet communities lending a helping hand from coast to coast. In the Midwest, volunteers are helping women travel to states where abortion is still legal. And in California, we look at new ways to prevent wildfires. But first, we turn our attention to a nationwide problem, the growing shortage of our men and women in blue. 86% of law enforcement agencies reported a decline in officers in a recent study. Charlie DeMar shows us how one Chicago department is filling in the gap.
It's graduation day for 46 brand new Chicago police officers. It's a start, but still 1,300 cops short of what the department says it needs.
What is the reality for the Chicago Police Department in terms of the officer shortage?
The reality is that we need to fill the gaps quickly.
So the city is looking here to fill the void.
It's been a great job.
At Camp Pendleton near San Diego, about 9,000 Marines become civilians every year. So Deputy Chief Migdalia Bolnis brought 6 officers, all former Marines, to recruit.
Good afternoon, Marines. These are every mother's son and daughter that put on the uniform of our country. These aren't bad people. These are great people. These are American heroes.
It's not always an easy sell.
What are some of the biggest challenges for you in recruiting?
Just the negativity that goes around it.
Since the national reckoning following George Floyd's death in 2020, departments across the country are struggling to keep cops. According to a recent survey of 172 police departments, resignations are up by more than 40% since 2019, and retirements were up almost 25% during the same period. Some worry that skills meant for battlefields won't be suitable for city streets.
The first thing is, are we making the law enforcement process too militant? And no, we're not. They're individuals just like us, just like you. The process will weed out those that have issues.
Background checks, drug screens, and a written test were given immediately on site to the 19 Marines who applied. A process that usually takes several months, now compressed to just 3 weeks.
That's really all we need.
Corporals Christopher Rivera and Jeremiah Harrington both signed up.
Any hesitation on joining a police department?
No, not at all. Especially joining the Marine Corps. That's something that you know what you sign up for.
I just want to bring the crime rate down and just serve a great community.
A department in need of officers, finding Marines in need of a new mission.
Come on, hurry up. Get off the top. With Roe v. Wade overturned, states that allow abortions could see an increase of patients from states that don't. Adriana Diaz rides along with a group of activists helping women from Wisconsin travel to abortion clinics in Illinois.
Lori, who lives north of Chicago, says getting behind the wheel is an act of activism.
I've had people sleep the entire way home.
So people falling asleep in this backseat right here?
Yeah.
With this blanket?
With that very same blanket.
She drives women who need a ride to get an abortion, both locally and from out of state. Lori's a volunteer with the Midwest Access Coalition, known as MAC. The nonprofit helps fund everything from lodging and transportation to childcare for women who need those resources to get the procedure. She says she's driven about 20 women in the last 3 years.
What do you remember about the last woman you transported?
Yeah, she was a single mom. She wasn't getting a lot of support from her former husband. And she said, I just can't manage it much as I would like to. And it was it was heartbreaking, and it was encouraging at the same time that she had an avenue to terminate her pregnancy because she wanted to and felt she needed to.
With Roe overturned, Planned Parenthood estimates that up to 30,000 additional patients could travel to Illinois for abortions over the next year.
People in Illinois are going to be feeling a ripple effect.
Ahead of the Supreme Court's decision, we spoke to Diana Parker Kafka, executive director of MAC. She said demand for the organization's services had already tripled this year.
Your phones are ringing off the hook?
Yeah, like my phone's vibrating every 5 seconds now.
Really?
Yeah.
She worries without Roe, Illinois healthcare facilities will be stretched to capacity.
You expect people will have to be turned away?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there will be people that we won't be able to see through
their abortion care that need it. And we're also thinking about plans on how to support those people.
There are anti-abortion rights activists who believe that it's wrong to help women cross state lines to get an abortion if she's coming from a state where it's banned. What do you say to them?
I don't think bodily autonomy should be limited by borders. These are people making a decision that is really essential for their lives, for their families.
Is your organization helping people, women, skirt state laws?
I wouldn't say they're skirting state laws. If someone has an appointment at a clinic in Illinois and that care is legal, then we absolutely will help them get there.
And for some volunteers like Lori, their passion is personal. She had an abortion in her 30s before she was ready for a family.
I knew immediately, I thought, there's no way I'm going to have a child right now. I was lucky, it was after Roe. I'm old enough to clearly remember before Roe was passed, and I know what those experiences were like.
She says ensuring access to safe, legal abortions is what drives her. Is it hard dropping folks off?
Yes. Yes, it is. It is. I think about them walking through the doors. They stay with me, and it reinforces my commitment to keep on doing this as long as necessary, which is looking like it's going to be a while.
After the break, we meet an LGBTQ community in New York leading the way of inclusion and acceptance. This is Eye on America. It's the only LGBTQ center in all of the Bronx, where its founder says they're expanding crucial services to underserved communities. Kate Santachin shows us how the founder of the grassroots organization is serving with pride.
Bronx, how you doing today? Make some noise!
The Bronx has a thriving LGBT community, and we deserve a space as well.
Sean Ebony Coleman, who identifies as transgender, is the founder and executive director of Destination Tomorrow, the only LGBTQ center in the Bronx serving their predominantly Black and brown neighbors, offering gender and sexuality affirming services.
I see myself a lot in all of the young people that come in here because they're all looking for something. Just some guidance, a kind word, somebody that act like they cared.
Founded in 2009, they offer housing, education, health, and mental health care, and, Coleman says perhaps most importantly, community.
When I came in here, I didn't feel like I had to dress a certain way, I didn't have to act a certain way, but facing society, I had to be more masculine, I had to fit in more, which it was very, very hard, because at those times when I first discovered Destination Tomorrow, I was just in the beginning of my transition.
Research from the National Institutes of Health show loneliness and lack of support among transgender individuals can have devastating consequences. 82% of transgender adults have considered suicide, and 86% of transgender youth have had suicidal thoughts.
In the Black and brown community, seeking counseling for a long time had been taboo, right? Like, I'm not sure about other people, but in my home, what happened in the house stays in the house.
In addition to in-office services, Destination Tomorrow hosts events in local neighborhoods, like this Bronx Pride Fest. Many staff members first became involved as clients.
I started coming to Destination Tomorrow as a community member, coming to the makeup workshops, which is actually where I learned to do makeup, right, for the first time, and to contour.
Coleman says transgender and gender non-conforming people experience lower incomes and higher rates of homelessness, and Coleman says it's worse for the Black and brown community. Many transgender and gender non-conforming individuals report feeling unsafe or unwelcome in shelters. For instance, only 30% of shelters are willing to house trans women. Destination Tomorrow offers emergency 90-day apartment-style housing and teaches life skills.
During the time that we have them, we're programming so we can get the job that they need so they earn a living wage. We're teaching them life skills so that they can do independent living. They're managing their money better, because it makes no sense to give someone housing if we don't teach them how to sustain that housing. And then we do a food pantry as well.
2021 was the deadliest year on record for transgender and non-binary people, with at least 57 murders reported. And in 2022, state legislatures have considered nearly 160 anti-trans bills, with 17 passing or being signed into law by a governor, and 60 remaining on the table. Destination Tomorrow offers clients unconditional support.
It's chosen family with your lived experiences, right? So if you can't go home and tell your moms about taking your first hormone shot, you can come here and we can celebrate that. We're doing hormone birthdays because you just took your first T-shot. Like, that's exciting to us. Your bi family may not really understand it.
The organization has already opened an outpost in Atlanta, and Coleman is heavily involved in granting money to underfunded LGBTQ organizations around the country.
There's some gays in Alabama too, and South Carolina and New Orleans and all those other spaces. So the goal is to identify programs, those grassroots programs that are doing really, really solid work.
Coleman and the staff hope to see the transgender and gender nonconforming community thrive and flourish in the Bronx.
I'm not here to gatekeep, right? I'm not here to say I'm the only trans person here, because I don't want to be. Like, I want us to be, everywhere, proliferate in all fields. We need doctors, we need lawyers, we need pastors, we need, all kinds of, a host of community members and political and social leaders. So that's, for me, what I see drives my passion here.
Where there's a whisk, there's a way. A nonprofit is empowering women facing barriers to employment. Jan Crawford introduces us to a job training program helping make the world a better place.
Hey, you guys.
Sadie Kirkland says she was broken. After 20 years of battling alcoholism and more than a decade of unemployment, the former Army private hit rock bottom.
Both my kidneys had shut down.
Oh, gosh.
And I was in ICU for 9 days. It was a touch and go situation.
That was her wake-up call, which she's answering here at Together We Bake, a Virginia nonprofit that uses baking to teach women in need about business, ownership, and being part of a team.
In my lowest moments, I always felt alone. But here at Together We Bake, I have sisters that have similar stories.
The sweet treats are sold in local stores and online. 90% of the graduates earn a food service certification, opening a door to the industry if that's the route they choose.
You come as you are and you're accepted for that. You are never thought less of for something you've done or you've been through.
You're back on your feet. What does that mean to you?
It means to me that you can always overcome an obstacle.
Overcoming any obstacle together.
On to another wholesome story. Seniors on fixed incomes often have a hard time making ends meet for themselves and therefore their pets. But one teenager in Arizona decided to do something about it. Mark Strassman has the story.
Kindness comes wrapped in a bag of pet food.
You're doing a wonderful job. Thank you so much.
Delivered by a 15-year-old who cares.
Hi, it's Sonia with Grandpa's Pantry, here to deliver your pet food.
Every week, Sonia Colatur drops off donated pet food to dog and cat owners living at Phoenix senior centers, often fixed income, immobile, alone.
You see Sunshine? There's Sunshine. It's their companion. It's their family. A lot of them do not have family that come and visit, or they don't have any family members.
Grandpa's, her pet food charity, started when she was 10, visiting her great-grandmother.
I noticed often how senior citizens weren't able to afford pet food.
When you were 10, you spent your birthday money paying for the food.
Yes, and I would ask my friends, instead of bringing gifts, please bring pet food.
Carol Huggins has 2 cats, Sunshine and Patches.
And without your contributing the food, I wouldn't have been able to keep them both together.
Sonia's deliveries help keep roughly 75 seniors with their pets.
Oh, it's definitely grown tremendously. The most rewarding part of the charity is definitely those moments when I'm able to give the pet food supplies directly to the seniors. I've learned about their stories, their lives, their pets, and it's really just a wonderful experience to have.
Many people adopt rescue pets.
I hope Coco likes it.
Yes, she will.
Sonia rescues pet owners.
Coming up, we'll look at new ways to prevent wildfires and the growing concern for those who risk their lives fighting them. Hot, dry, and windy weather has caused a predictable problem in the West, raging wildfires. More than 40 million acres burned in the past 5 years. Brooke Silva Braga meets officials in California who are on a mission to combat the blazes.
In July 2018, a patch of dry summer brush ignited in Shasta County, California.
It seems like that's the story that gets played over and over recently. Burning areas that haven't burned in a long time, and now people live there.
Few people were better prepared for what became known as the Carr Fire than Aaron Humphrey.
So I was born in the fire, basically into the Forest Service. My dad worked on the Laguna hotshots down on the Cleveland National Forest.
Aaron also became a hotshot. The dangerous job of working on a wildfire's edge and scraping the ground bare to starve the fire of fuel. 20 years in, he'd become the leader, a superintendent, but still wasn't ready for what the Carr Fire became, devouring 500,000 California acres and taking 8 lives.
The fire environment created its own weather all night.
Got about a 100-foot wall of flame coming down.
I honestly didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to be there. So it was hard.
Each of the last 2 years have had a fire twice as big as the Carr. Superfires are fueled by dry conditions. That's thanks to a changing climate. They're also harder to battle because more homes near wildlands mean far more places to protect. But ironically, the chief of the Forest Service, Randy Moore, says much of the trouble was created nearly a century ago by the Forest Service itself.
Back in 1935, Chief Silcox implemented this 10 a.m. policy. Every fire would be put out by 10 a.m. the next morning. What we didn't realize at the time was the ecological value of fire. Now we have an overdense forest because we were putting all the fires out. What you have is a greater opportunity for catastrophic wildfires.
So Moore, a Forest Service lifer who was long based in the West, has plans to thin 50 million acres over the next 10 years, cutting and selling what they can, but relying largely on what's known as prescribed fires.
Down low, down low.
California's state firefighters are burning too.
I want the message to be that not all fire is bad.
Cal Fire's Gus Boston told us it gives him a better chance of stopping a future blaze like the one that destroyed nearby Paradise.
And when this burn is successful, what will this look like?
Return it back to where the brush isn't so dense.
But the American West is so big and so dry, burning brush is far from a silver bullet. In fact, the Forest Service paused their burns this spring after one in New Mexico grew wildly out of control.
We have to learn to live with fire. In fact, we are living with fire. We're just not living with it very well.
Chris Scow retired as a Forest Service deputy director for fire and says the ultimate solution will be nothing short of rebuilding the West.
We need to have highways, water delivery systems, electrical distribution that can live with fire being on the landscape.
If that sounds expensive, it would be. So for now, a more brutal solution is being employed, sending men and women into impossibly massive fires and hoping they come out okay. Often, they do not.
I don't know how to put this in the right words, but I just felt angry all the time. I felt anxious and I felt angry.
In 2019, after his 25th season, Aaron Humphrey left the Forest Service, citing the toll deadly fires and severe crew injuries had taken on his mental health.
For guys who do this a long time, how common are mental health challenges?
It's more common than I think anyone can ever say.
Humphrey wrote down what he was feeling.
Just know I'm putting it all out there, so maybe it helps someone.
And emailed it to colleagues as a goodbye letter to the Forest Service.
I needed real help and not just talking to friends and drinking. Professional help.
Other letters followed.
To whom it may concern, I'm resigning after 17 years with the Forest Service.
Mike West detailed his trouble getting treatment for PTSD, the toll on home life, and the pay, which even after President Biden intervened last year,
what I still think is not enough,
starts at just $15 an hour. That's far below what local agencies like CAL FIRE pay.
If you're putting an incredible strain on your family and risking your life, you deserve to be able to support your family without relying on insane amounts of overtime.
West became a teacher. Humphrey took an easier, higher-paying fire job with a utility company. Many others left too. And yet the Forest Service repeatedly told Congress this spring they were on track to be fully staffed.
We have brought on about 90% of that already, and we'll get there 100% shortly.
What are you seeing? On the ground, that sounded impossible to Scott Burkhart, a California hotshot boss who lost 40% of his crew this year.
I respect their decisions. I respect them going to make more money, but it's hard.
The replacements, attracted to adventure and beauty, can't always afford housing.
You have guys living in their vehicle.
Oh, affirmative, yes.
In frustration, Burkhart took one of the resignation letters he had received and forwarded it to the Forest Service leadership, along with his own grim message.
Watching the mass exodus of our operational knowledge is one of the saddest evolutions I have witnessed. His resignation embodies every deficiency that will contribute to the biblical destruction ahead of us.
When we met Chief Moore early this month, he conceded they had not hired all 11,300 firefighters they were hoping for.
Currently, we're just under 9,000 employees, which pushes about 80%.
Moore said his April testimony that they'd already brought on 90% of their goal assumed everyone would accept their offer, an assumption that speaks to a disconnect between the Home Office in D.C. and the firefighters in the forest.
We spoke to one person out in California who said they see this testimony that says basically everything's okay. And he's saying, wait a minute, I lost 8 of the 20 guys on my hotshot. We went to a job fair where we're offering $15 and the fast food restaurants are offering $18. There isn't a sense of urgency around how dire it is.
And I know that that's all true. You can go to a fast food restaurant and make more than what our lower graded employees were making.
But that makes your job hard.
Of course it does. It makes it more complicated.
Okay, here we go.
Part of the solution was promised in last year's infrastructure bill, which included raises for wildland firefighters if Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack and Office of Personnel Management Director Kiran Ahuja determined raises were needed to help with hiring. But 7 months later, no raises have been given. In a joint statement, the agencies told us, we expect to have updates related to the pay increases out to our workforce very soon. But that will be too late for the spring hiring season. The Forest Service told us this week, nationally, they are now 90% staffed. But across California, Oregon, and Washington state, more than 1,000 vacancies remain.
Do you think you'll stay?
Yeah. I'll be here until I retire. And that's why I'm talking to you, because I want this to succeed. I want this to keep going. I want to see folks get the respect that I think they deserve.
Since the story aired, we'd like to note a temporary pay increase has been approved for federal wildland firefighters of $20,000 a year or 50% of their base salary. For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news 24/7, stream us right here on CBS News. I'm Michelle Miller, and thank you for watching Eye on America.